Welcome to the Vendor Showcase. I'd like to introduce you to Chuck Hartle and Kaylee Felio. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Paul.
So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about you before we get started?
So I'm the sales and marketing manager with PartsEdge. I've been with the company about 5 years. And my goal is really just to spread the word about what we do for parts managers. And that's really kind of what I'm focused on.
I'm the president of PartsEdge, which we started back in 1999, April of 99, seeing a need in the market to fill a niche on inventory control. And my business partner, Cliff Cope, together with his software knowledge and my parts knowledge, put together a program to fill that niche, which I think we've done really successfully, Paul, over these last few years. Obviously, we've been in business almost 22 years. And I just have a passion for the parts business. After being a fixed ops director for 3 years, I just knew I was a parts geek and I love the numbers. And hence, that's what we do, working with almost a couple of hundred dealerships day in and day out, helping them to get the best return on their investment with parts.
Well, you and I have had some interesting parts chat because, with my background running some aftermarket service centers, there are part numbers that just stick in my head decades later. So.
Very true. Boy, that has changed so much because, new car models change every 2 years now. Gosh, and this just dates me, but, back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, for 20 years, the Dodge van was the same van. And boy, did I still have the part numbers just etched in my memory because the vehicles just didn't change. And now, gosh, the proliferation of part numbers, Paul, it's just mind-boggling.
I could see the look on Kaylee's face up. Here's the part where the two old guys go into part number talk.
I just smiled.
I'm going to avoid that. Okay.
Obsessed with creating the perfect inventory? Us too. PartsEdge gives you the tools you need to outpace the competition and provide the highest level of service to your customers. PartsEdge is a powerful tool for parts managers to get the job done faster. Imagine what it was like when the impact wrench arrived. It made mechanics 3 times faster. Getting the job done without the latest technology makes it difficult to keep up. Besides all the other responsibilities you have, you work hard to have all the right parts you need when you need them. PartsEdge was designed by parts people for parts people to make that job a lot easier. PartsEdge saves you 4 to 6 hours every week and can increase your sales by 10 to 20% in just 12 months. Not bad for your bottom line. Take your obsession to perfection with PartsEdge. Call us today to find out what PartsEdge can do for you.
You were going to cover the manufacturer programs and the recent analysis that we did on all of our clients on ASRs. Then
there's another addition, and I think this is really important for all of you that are watching and listening. In today's parts operation, things have changed. 2021 is completely different than it was in 1988 or 2000 even. And we're going to give you just a little nugget of something that is very important. We feel that the reports on the DMS system many of them are irrelevant and outdated this day and age. And so we wanted to go over just one little section on gross turns versus true turns. So the state of the dealership parts operation here in 2021. Again, just re-emphasizing what I was just talking with Kaylee about is what we see from a reporting aspect this day and age is just totally outdated. And I'm going to give you a few examples of it. But one of the things that we're in a very unique position to do is to actually, we have so many Ford, GM, Chrysler, Honda, Nissan, Toyota dealers, whatnot, that we work with day in and day out. Every once in a while, I like to take the pulse of how parts operations are working based on the manufacturer. And so with that being said, what am I talking about? Stock replenishment programs, or what the acronym ASR, so to speak, for automatic stock replenishment. On the left-hand side of this slide, you can easily see that just about every manufacturer has gone to some type of stock replenishment program, whether it be RIM or Aero or PartsEdge, Nissan's ASR 2.0, Mercedes Stock Pro. As you can see, with the exception of really Toyota and Honda and Acura, and to a degree Volkswagen, these manufacturers have really gone to the point where they are controlling what's selling within the inventory. And in some instances, as many of you know, and I'm not teaching you anything you don't know, they're forcing you to take a percentage to keep incentives and whatnot. And so when you look at this and see this is where the whole market is basically gone, this is where we took this study and put it together. And so as you look here, and I've got this ranked based on the percentage of inventory that's guaranteed, I have the 7 major makes that have some type of a stock replenishment program. And then down below, you'll notice in red that I actually added Toyota, Honda, and Volkswagen. And doing a ranking report here, one of the things that you can really tell about a stock replenishment program with the manufacturers is that they only guarantee what sells. And I want to say that again. They only guarantee what sells. When we look at 2 of the better ones, of course, the brass ring out there, the perfect inventory would be the manufacturer is guaranteeing 100% of your inventory. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And in reality, that doesn't even come close, especially the larger the make, the bigger it is. You can see that Subaru and Kia at the very top of this slide by far lead the percentage of guaranteed inventory. One of the things that I think is very curious as you look at that is that when you look at the productive inventory off to the side, they actually have some of the lowest productive inventory, meaning they're putting more inventory on your shelves, breadth, and you, the dealer or the parts manager, are bearing the holding costs of this width of inventory. See, as they can guarantee this, one of the things the manufacturers can do is throw the dial and increase your breadth or width, whether it sells or not, and they can turn it back down. And we certainly saw some of this during COVID. And now coming out of the COVID process, one of the things that we're starting to see is that there's a huge back order problem and a huge labor shortage. You know, our industry is not immune from what is going on with just about every industry. In fact, watching a report, it says it'll probably be second quarter of 2022 until the supply chain can get caught up, especially when it comes to auto parts and the manufacturers. So when you take that into consideration, one of the things the manufacturers can do, and I've certainly heard this over the last month, is that these back order problems, some of the fastest moving maintenance parts we've seen stocking levels from the manufacturer be reduced to the dealer, and the dealer is starting to run out of some of the faster moving maintenance stuff. These are the types of controls with a stock replenishment program that can be in effect. One of the things, and we would be happy to send this to you, all you have to do is contact Paul, is send you this slide report so that you can take a look at where your manufacturer is at and what you're doing. I'm not here to pick on one manufacturer or another. Quite honestly, this is just a ranking report based on the couple of hundred dealers that we work with day in and day out and averaging the number and taking a good look at that. So anyway, good food for thought as you think about the industry. But the real point and the real key here from a management aspect is that you have two different inventories, two completely different inventories now in today's 2021 inventory, ASR managed. You have what's guaranteed and what's not guaranteed. And that's really critical and important to break that down. But a lot of the manufacturers or the DMS systems, we have yet to find one that accurately breaks this down and portrays it. Why this is so critical, Kaylee, is it's really the non-guaranteed inventory that's so critical. Mm-hmm. And typically this is based on unfulfilled demand. Unfulfilled demand being technicians over ordering, returns from wholesale customers, parts ordered in error, a big one, customers not returning to the dealership for non-critical warranty repairs. Yeah. And what ends up happening, again, the manufacturer will not guarantee what doesn't sell, AKA these parts, these marginal parts that get forced into your inventory. These are the types of things that are not guaranteed. And now with a lack of earned return allowance has basically gone to next to nothing. For those of you that are Ford dealerships, you know you haven't had a return program in 5 or 6 years. Now, at least with the new Ford RIM program, which those of you that are on CDK and now it's being introduced into DealerTrack are finding out, you can't wait until you get those parts at 12 months that you finally get to send the parts back, a percentage of them. But Kaylee, to the point, is there's very little return allowance earned anymore in an ASR program. They pretty much take that away and they give no return allowance on the parts that are guaranteed, because they're guaranteed. What do you need return allowance for?
And that's why there's a trend of even more obsolescence out there.
Correct. In fact, what we've experienced is, and in fact, the slide that I've got up here is a culmination of about 35 GM dealerships. And when you look out to the obsolescence and under the not guaranteed percentage, it's 16.37% of the inventory is obsolete of what's not guaranteed. That's why it's so critical. And anymore, it used to be 20 years ago, we could do a 3-for-1 buyout, or we could buy ourselves out of an obsolescence issue by buying some more depth and breadth and earning return allowance to get rid of it. Those days are gone. There's just literally under an ASR program, there's no way to buy yourself out of an obsolescence issue. It's more, we have to find other ways to accrue money to retire obsolescence and for stock inventory. So one of the things I want to touch on, and this is the little nugget that I want to hand off to you all, is I get so many phone calls, especially so far this year, talking about low true turns. Again, these are the management programs on these DMS systems that calculate out true turns and gross turns. And it used to be gross turns was fairly irrelevant. True turns was the important thing. And why were true turns so important? Well, back when I was in the dealership era in 80 and 88, we used to only get stock orders one time a week. That was it, just once. And the more we could buy on a stock order, we would get discounts and return allowance based on buying off a stock order. Well, as time has evolved into 2021 and today's inventories, you don't earn return allowance anymore on stock orders because a lot of them are ASR. Or if you do a stock order, it's done as a daily, or your customer orders. When you order parts now from the manufacturer, whether it's a stock order, customer pay, whatever, you earn the same type of return allowance or discount, which is next to nothing. So it really becomes almost irrelevant what your true turns would be. In fact, quite honestly, if we could really calculate it accurately and get the right parts and the right reporting and dollar amounts, I would say replacing true turns with ASR turns versus non-ASR turns would be the great calculation. But what I wanted to really focus on here was the tables have turned. They've just switched. Whereas now your gross turns are much more relevant than your true turns. And the only thing that could really affect it is if you have a lot of emergency purchases from other dealerships or the aftermarket. Once you consider that, if that's high, and you can certainly take and look at your emergency purchase report from your DMS system, and if 3 to 5% of your purchases every month are from other dealers, that's something you want to attack and look at maybe getting some more breadth in the inventory. But what I want to share here on this next, yes, Kaylee?
Nope. You're good.
Oh, okay. What I want to share on the next slide here is simple. It's the calculation. And I'm just pretty much going to leave it right here. This shows you exactly, and you don't have to be a genius to get this. Every one of the management reports on the system have what your monthly sales were at cost, and you take that and you multiply it by 12 and divide it into your closing inventory balance from your management report, whether it's the 2213 on rentals, the CDK MGR, the trend analysis report with DealerTrack. It's easy to come up with what your cost of sales were, multiplied by 12, divided into your inventory balance. And as you can see here, simple calculation, if you had $100,000 worth of sales this past month, multiply that by 12, you got 1.2 million divided into a $300,000 inventory. You're turning your inventory 4 times a year. Until we can actually get to the point to isolate effectively on the systems what's guaranteed and what's not guaranteed, looking at your gross inventory turns is the best way to really measure an inventory. One of the problems that I've run into is some of these ASRs, they're great at pushing the orders back onto your computer system. You all know that. One of the things when these get pushed back into your system is the way they get receipted doesn't necessarily mean they go through stock. We had one manufacturer, one dealer who called us up, and his true turns, he's being judged on his true turns, which was 1.2 turns, which next to very little obsolescence with this manufacturer, happened to be a Land Rover store. And when I just took this basic calculation that you're seeing on the screen here, it turned out he was at 7.5 gross turns. The reason he was at 1.2 true turns was all his automatic stock programs were being receipted in as customer orders. Hence, that's why his true turns were so low. So with that being said, those are the little tidbits that I wanted to cover today. A couple of little hot buttons that hopefully might just catch your attention. And again, you can certainly reach out to Paul or Kaylee, myself. We'd be happy to share, depending on your DMS, where you could find this critical calculation to figure it out. And again, a fun thing, just a request, is that one manufacturer slide, just to kind of see how you measure up based on what other makes, if you're a multi-franchise store, how you size up to the other dealerships in the industry with those benchmark reports. Kaylee?
Yeah, that was great, Chuck. I just want to wrap up everything, just how important it is, because this is just a small part of a parts manager's job. They have so many other things going on, and it's just so important to give the parts managers the tools to better manage the inventory within the DMS, because again, there's a lot going on with everything. So
Great summary. Great way to follow it up. Absolutely.
yeah.
You know, it used to be said by Mike Nichols. He used to say parts management wasn't rocket science. Well, we're finding out it's getting more and more like that, trying to manage all the different programs you have from the different manufacturers. And it's becoming a little bit more like rocket science. So good point, Kaylee.
Yeah, because it's not just inventory management, customers, employees, the DMS. So
That's some great information. So, there are some problems that dealers are experiencing now. And, why don't you share with us a couple of those?
yeah, I mean, everyone's pretty much having some sort of hiring. There's a hiring crisis. It's hard to find good people right now. So that's one of the, biggest issues going on with parts managers. Like, for instance, we had one client who, about a year ago, he was the only one. It was parts manager. He was the only one in the operation. He furloughed everyone. And he said the last thing he would have got rid of was us, because we helped bring that consistency to the inventory management process. And that's what parts managers need, because they're spread so thin right now. And inventory management can't just get pushed off to the side, because that's how, the obsolescence grows. That's how a bunch of problems occur. So the consistency of the inventory management, really just, focusing on that and having that be a solution for them. I don't know, Chuck, if you want to chime in a little bit. You had the conversation with the parts.
Well, Kaylee, it's really about, ringing the till, selling the parts.
Yeah.
And when push comes to shove in the dealership, the most important thing you want to do is make your techs happy, make your customers happy, and sell the part. You can always go back and lick your wounds later. And we see a lot of parts managers who work double time, overtime, because during that selling window of 8 to 5, Monday through Friday or Saturday, they end up after the selling window spending several hours trying to catch up on paperwork. That's where we come in and really free them up so that, they're able to train their people better, focus on sales better, and not have to be chained to the inventory. We keep a pulse on the inventory for them and keep it accurate and consistent. So very good way for you to put it, Kaylee.
Yeah, and parts managers, you can only work so many hours for so long until you just get worn out and you're just not happy. So it's just not good for anyone to work that many hours all the time. Yeah.
With all the programs that the parts manager today has to manage at the same time, and then also put on the counter person hat, I mean, that's a lot for anybody to have to handle, especially in a role as critical as running a parts department.
You bet, Paul. We work with multi-million-dollar parts operations that have 75, 80 employees, and we work with, quite a few 1 and 2 person parts operations. They take out the trash, and if they're not there, the part doesn't get sold, or the technician, God forbid, goes and pulls it. But we do have a couple of small stores like that. And so that critical point where we can fill in, whether it's a 1-man or 1-person parts operation or a 75-person operation, inventory control is still the key to keeping the till going. But hey, if I was a parts manager in the situations right now, I'd just make sure my customers were taken care of. I'd lick my wounds. And that's what we're seeing percentage-wise out there, is trying to come out of post-COVID right now, Paul, is we're seeing parts operations have gone down a little bit. And on top of that, they're suffering through massive backorder problems, which is caused by COVID. You can't really blame one manufacturer or another. We had a Honda dealer in the DC area that I talked to last week that, the consistency of the manufacturers delivering parts every day, your stock orders and everything. And this particular dealer, his truck didn't show up one morning. He called the depot and they go, "We didn't have anybody to deliver the parts." So he got a trailer the next day twice as full, and he had to come in extra early to get it checked in. Those are the kinds of things that parts managers are dealing with right now. And it's probably going to be that way, Paul, until early 2022 or longer. So that's where
One note too, the shortages too. They're getting their deliveries, but then they're short parts, and then they have to submit claims. So it's like a whole nother management of, lost parts.
Or
on the to-do list.
Yeah, on their to-do list. Yeah.
Yeah, COVID, of course, from a physical aspect, we all worried about it. Are we going to get COVID? Are we going to get vaccinated? Whatever. But, the repercussions within the supply chain of retail management. I mean, look at new cars. How many of them are just sitting there waiting for microprocessors because they're so short, and it's, such a severe situation. And we see that all the way across the line. And unfortunately, parts operations are like that. So, we'll get through it, no question. If there's one thing I love about the automotive industry is it's resilient and it always comes back. But we're going through a tough time, post-COVID. I think almost seems a little tougher than pre-COVID, if you know what I mean, Paul. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, we will get through it. I'm with you. I feel the same way about the auto business. It seems like no matter what it throws at us, it makes us better. It makes us stronger. It does weed out some of the weak players, but overall, it does make us better and hopefully more prepared. God forbid there's a next time.
Yeah. Yes. Right there, Paul. That's it. But, it's learning through these kind of challenging times that help managers, and track things more effectively. But everybody's going to learn through this. I treat it as, a learning experience in my lifetime. I hope we never go through it again, but I've certainly learned how to adjust a lot of things through this. Just as dealerships, I thought they were pretty darn resilient, even through what they went through and how they did. And now the great thing, Paul, and in this, a great thing to happen, out of all the dealerships we work with, and this probably sums it up better than anything, they're all super busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, what a great problem to have.
Yeah, not enough hours in a day and record profits.
Yeah.
You bet.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
This has been great.